Hi everyone, it's Jerry. I have an instructive game to share with you from 1930. On the white end, Alekhine playing against Aron Nimzowitsch. Alright, we have a French defense. Bishop b4 is the Winawer variation. Pinning the knight. Move 5. Bishop d2 is the Bogoljubow variation. Unpinning the knight, playing opposite the dark square bishop. Black continues with knight e7 here. If black is not careful, an accident can easily occur on d6, now that this knight is unpinned. So if black on this move 5 captures on d4, knight b5 would be very strong. Best is to now maintain the bishop retreat along this diagonal, but just to show you, dark square bishop exchange, yeah, there's now no stopping. There would be no stopping knight d6. Black will soon go uncastled. Black is fast in this game, playing knight e7, knight b5 even here. Given the central structure, we can identify good and bad bishops. This is black's good bishop, being exchanged now for white's bad bishop. And before knight d7 can hit, black is there just in the nick of time, castling. White reinforces d4, and from here black continues with b6. Plays on the queenside for many moves. In the computer's eyes, it likes this idea to challenge white's strongest pawn, this guy in e5. Wants to go with f6 here, opening up the file for the rook. I want to put on this f6 move. I'm going to make several moves here. I want to demonstrate a tactic that is potentially there for black with the f file opening up. So let's see what this looks like. Black having a lead in development here, it makes sense to chop away, opening lines, and a position like this right here, all very natural looking moves so far. A position like this, already a bit scary for white. After castles, there's actually a trick on e5, unleashing an attack on b5. Let's say that's defended with knight c3. This is where we can see how f6 is helping black tactically. This opened file, well, there's now an exchange sacrifice on f3 with knight takes d4 to follow. Calls this around equal. Half dead f-pawn at the end of this. Wants to go queenside at this stage now that the king side is a wreck. Okay, anyhow, something to be mindful of, this opening up of the f-file, potential sacrifices on f3. Queenside play in this one, kicking off with b6. Okay, let's get a few more moves in here. Some pressure on b5, easy enough to defend. Knight b c6, and no rush here, developing the light square bishop. Some defense on this move 12. b4, ruling out any knight a5 idea. If it's on a5, a couple nice jumps available for it. Possible fork right around the corner. It's ruled out altogether. Nice positional play in this game by Alekhine, mostly known for his tactical games. This is a nice positional crush. From here, c takes b, and bishop b7 is played now. One thing I found instructive is, in the event of this capture on b5, the better way to recapture would be with the pawn. It seems, I must admit, very natural to want to develop a new piece and throw black in a pin, but this pin would be short-lived. Black can flick in a6 and follow with a5, and this is a very strong idea. a5, in short, will grant this knight one of two squares, a5 or b4. It will get to one of these two. b5, knight b4. B takes a, knight takes a. Okay, a nice stable square the knight would have on the dark squares. Okay. The better way to recapture in this position would be with the A pawn, taking on double isolated pawns. You get an open file, and you take away one of the few remaining squares from the black knights, and queen for that matter. This knight has to run in reverse. Black's not having a fun time in this position, to be sure. Okay. In this game, no bishop captures knight. It's bishop b7, maybe gearing up for a5. White hops to the weakest square in black's camp, and black continues now with f5. Best, in the computer's eyes, is to immediately challenge this invasive knight. Wants to go with knight c8 and a knight for bishop exchange with bishop d3 castles to follow. Taking that line out a bit more, in the event of a5, b5 knight b4, bishop on b1 is a nice, convenient way to tame that invasive knight on b4. Could see a rook lift at some point. Okay, we do not have this knight challenged on move 14. It is f5, trying to shut down the king side. White is strong on the king side with this pawn on e5. With this guy planted on f5 here, not so easy to manage a quick kingside attack. For instance, g4, f5. And this pawn is around interfering with that idea. Black is playing f5 in a way saying, if you take en passant trying to open up the king side, we're going to end up exchanging knights now. Black in the end would even be sort of for choice. Peter starts to like black with the continuation like this. White does not take on f6. If f6 is played, white would just ignore this pressure on e5, do know. Just continue to develop from here. All right, it is f5 in this game. And now another instructive moment coming up here. Move 15, still no light square bishop move. Instead, we have a5. This stops black from playing a5. Pop quiz here. How would you respond? Feel free to pause the video. Okay, in the game, knight c8 is played, challenging the d6 knight. Best in the computer's eyes, however, is a6, a defensive move, preventing white from establishing a pawn on a6. We'll see soon enough in what ways white benefits by being allowed to plant a pawn on this square. Taking this continuation out just a little bit more, wants to go right after that b pawn, knight takes bishop, queen recaptures, you get the pawn back soon. And in the event of knight takes knight, black gets the pawn back in this way. Okay, another detail here, an important detail, is that if black captures on a5 in this position, best move here would be b5, robbing the c6 square from 4 black pieces. And this guy would now have to hit the reverse button. Moving forward, well, it's going to be lost. Okay, in this game, it is knight c8. Now, winning idea, just swipe the light square bishop, follow up with a6. In what way is white benefiting here? Well, with the pawn planted on a6, now when the bishop arrives on b5, it cannot be challenged. And we're going to see that the bishop on this diagonal right here turns out to be a great menace. Black continues here with queen f7. If the queen goes to e7, this guy is going to yell at her. This is not a problem. This is an easy threat to parry. In fact, you don't even have to react to it. White could continue with bishop to b5. And queen takes b, hangs the knight. And knight takes b, the knight is trapped. Okay, doesn't make a whole lot of sense blocking this c8 knight's only square. Queen f7, it is. Bishop b5, off the back rank, and we complete development from here. Black's cutting out any knight jump. This is a base point. Got that one covered now. getting on the only open file from here. And black is, at this point, going to try and hang on to the c6 square. Black ends up going into a pin here with queen to e7. If black takes a different approach, let's say withdrawing the knight at this stage, welcoming major piece exchanges, this would not turn out well for black. White would double, and next up, the rook is ready to now get to the 7th rank. And if you don't want a rook to end up on the 7th rank, let's say you exchange rooks, well, it would turn out even worse for black. A rook isn't going to get to the 7th rank, but a queen, doesn't matter which one of these three to go to, she will next get to c7 and be an even greater pest. How do you defend the knight? You can't. The bishop is there covering d7, so you would have to move it back to e7, and there you go. White is soon going to win material. No fear of the king coming under any pressure. The queen coming in like this, sturdy defender. Game over. This position would be for Team Black. So if the knight moves, in short, one of white's major pieces will enter on the 7th rank. So black crawls up into a ball in this game. And let me throw this position to you as a pop quiz. What would be your plan from here? Feel free to pause the video. Okay, the plan here, rook c3, rook 1 c2, and queen c1. This has a name. It's Alekhine's gun. This is the game where we got that term from. A very efficient arrangement, 3 majors, all stacked on the same file. When the capture-recapture sequence occurs on c6, ideally you want the lesser valued pieces to smash away first. White is positioned for that right here. What do you do now as black? You have to crawl up into a ball. What's the body count here for defenders of c6 and for attackers? Another pop quiz here. How would you continue? Feel free to pause the video. Okay, a slick little move here. Bishop a4, simply backing off. Gearing up now for b5, and white is ready to crash through on c7 once the knight moves. There's only 2 defenders of c7. What is black's try against this idea? Well, plays b5 himself, gives up a pawn. And by playing in this way, it does buy him time to now slide over with the king, who is now there just in time, adding a 3rd defender for the rook. White's follow-up here, final move of this game. You ready for it? No play on the queenside. h4. And black resigns. Kind of weird. Maybe at first glance, why is h4 forcing resignation? Well, let's look at this position a bit closer. Black is pretty much in zugzwang. Any piece move will soon lose material. This guy is pinned. This guy can't move. The rooks don't have good moves. c6 would collapse. And the other 2 moves, queen or king move, would leave c7 more vulnerable. And b5 would be there. Let's just put on an example. Let's say the queen goes here. This is where we can see b5. The knight's going to move, and there you go. The rook on c7 falls. That's just one sample line there. Black's going to run out of moves at the end here. After h4, black only has in this position silly pawn moves, and they're going to run out. You could do a little king shuffle. There you go. And then say, what do you got? Nothing. Zugzwang here for Team Black. So, what did you think of this one? Anyhow, feel free, as usual, to leave any feedback to this video in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed it, and maybe took a thing or two away. That's all for now. Take care.